Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we are diving into the last book. It's book 2 of our Duet series, the Hate series by Mary Catherine Gebhard. And if you have not already listened to the first book in the series, which is called Beast, that link is going to be available down below in the description section. Once you've listened to that review, come and join us as we dive into book 2, Beauty. The book fast forwards a month ahead of where we left off, and it starts with a bang. So Frankie has just taken out Big O. She had gone to take out Antiros, but because Big O had grabbed her, she wound up stabbing him. So Antiros shows up, and keep in mind, there's a whole body there, right? It's not like someone came and picked up Big O. He's there. She sees Antiros. He starts kissing her. He starts touching her. He fingers her. Girl absolutely loses it. And she's getting wetter. And he says to her, I knew you had that darkness in you. The idea that you've taken life from someone, the power that you feel. And the stuff that he was saying to her, she didn't want to admit it, but it was the truth. So she winds up running off. Little O comes, but he doesn't see her. And he, of course, is hurt because Big O is his twin. And clearly someone's taking him out. And Turo says that, he couldn't see the face of the guy that did this. So they leave and go back to the club. And Nikolai comes up to Antiros and tells him, there's a book that was left on your bed. But of course, he didn't say this in front of the other guys. We find out that Nikolai is the one that found him in the hotel after Frankie had left him. And so they don't know who the other culprits were. They think that, or shall we say, Antiros thinks that, Nikolai, kind of saved him, And no idea, this is the person that concocted it all. But I mean, Nikolai set that thing up perfect. He really did. Nikolai knows that there's a F that's carved into his chest. The other guys don't know, but Nikolai knows this information. We find out that Crazy 8, for what he did in the last book, he wound up getting some of his fingers cut off. And I was like, wow, that's so extreme. He reads a passage in the book. We don't know exactly what it says, just that the book is called Paradise Lost. He leaves it, and basically in that book, it's like the beast is now reawakened. So he knows that he has clearly underestimated Lucia Pavoni. She was not some old frail woman, not having anything to do with the business in Sicily. She was a threat. And he underestimated her. And that's always, the worst thing to do. So he decides that he's going to have to take out Senator Du Bois because he apparently has been working with Lucia. So they snatch him up, beat him up real bad. And then Antiros is actually the one who takes him out. We then find out what that passage in the book said that reawakened this beast. And it said, better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven. And then underneath it, Frankie had written, let me fall with you, Lucifer. I'm like, damn. Again, he knew there was darkness in this girl. So then a box is received at Lucia's, and inside the box it is the heart and ears and a note that says, mi quiero, come be my queen. So she knew that clearly that was for her. So Nikolai comes to get her or summon her, and we find out Nikolai, he's a double agent. He's working with Lucia as well. So he's clearly playing both sides. He's working for himself. So he tells Lucia, he tells Frankie, Lucia wants to see you. She doesn't go. She goes to Gabby's room. Gabby's all excited because she's going to go see Levi, even though They are in these beautiful rooms. It's still the same kind of crap, being watched all the time, not really having freedom, and it's almost like you just kind of traded one prison for another. She hears a tap on the window after Gabby leaves out. It's Antiros, and he is coming in there like he just doesn't care. And I'm wondering, like, there's no cameras in these rooms, but in these rooms right now, there's no cameras. So he comes through the window, and she, of course, freaks out and is like, you can't be here. She's getting pretty fed up. She wants to ask more questions, like, why did you do that to him? I thought he... And so this is pissing her off even more so. She's also starting to feel sick again, but she doesn't want to say anything because, again, she always views, her sickness as a weakness. And then she's afraid that's going to cause, people, if they do care, not to want to be around her. Poor little girl. Oh, poor thing. He leaves. They've decided they're going to meet up. She just tells him, don't let it be too far. Because girl's having a hard time. So then Lucia comes in and basically same thing, just kind of playing mind games with her. Doesn't tell her anything. She's like, I know you want to talk about your family. And she's like, next time don't make me have to come after you. If you come to me, I'll give you more information. So a video of that day when everything went down, and the video makes it sound like she's the mastermind, like she actually set this whole thing up. And I mean, literally the kidnapping, everything. So now Nikolai, this is his insurance that she's not going to tell Antiros that he's a double agent. So Nikolai tells Antiros that he has a guy that apparently is good with the captain of the precinct, and he has some information, so they go and meet, and it's Levi. Levi's last name is Lucchesi. I don't know if I'm saying that right. And Levi tells them basically he's trying to bury his father, who apparently wasn't a very remarkable person, but I'm trying to remember an angle as well. We know he wants to try and find his mother because he says that his mother was sold into the institute. That was probably 10 plus years ago. So, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to work his own angle and he's just kind of using whoever he needs to. Maybe that's in stories. So after they go to get into the Escalade, boom, everything goes black. There's been a car bomb. They've gotten out Antiros out of the car, but they can't leave him in the street. So they take him somewhere and bring a doctor, and he's trying to like get out because he's like on adrenaline, and he's trying to like get the hell out. Because of the bomb, his shirt's ripped, and so now you can see that F that's on his chest. Crazy 8 notices it. Crazy 8 notices, and he says, oh, so you haven't gone back to your old self. You've just gotten really good at hiding it. And so he has to think of a way to make Crazy A believe him, so he tells Crazy A to take out Frankie. He knows it's going to be very hard to do that because Frankie is pretty much under guard most of the time. But he figures that way, Crazy A is just kind of, it'll make him relax a little bit on thinking that there's something going on between the two of them. Honestly, I don't know how that's going to work because the man wants to take her out so bad. So that just seems like a really risky thing to do. But I guess at this point, he feels like that's the only choice. So then he jumps on his bike and goes to the church where he was supposed to meet up with Frankie. She's still there. Like, she might get in trouble because she's been out damn near overnight and she's not supposed to do that. But, girl is going to wait for her boo. So when she looks up and sees him, she's like hurt and she's pissed, but then she sees that he's hurt and then she's like, what the hell, And he's looking at her like, what, you don't know what happened? And she's like, no. So she tries to clean him up. And she wants him to, just stay with her and they can talk. But he's like, he can't do that because he has to get back to the meeting at the club. And, he was like, when do we ever just talk? So now she's pissed about that. So she winds up leaving. And so Nikolai has a plan that he's working on with Antiros. And he's trying to work his way up to be a soldier so he can be a part of, fully a part of the Wolves. Well, he says he wants to be fully a part of the Wolves. Let's say it like that. But, I mean, he can't be trusted because he's playing too many sides, So then Frankie goes back. She gets in trouble. She's having an episode on her way back with breathing. Almost passed out. Lucia put her in the basement. That was her punishment. That's where they put, some of the prostitutes, different ones. So she's there for like 3 days. Lucia tells her, since you want to go missing, you can stay down here and get treated like the other whores. So we find out that her father has been in the basement this whole time as well. So when the dad had got kidnapped, he was brought to this basement. And he's been here ever since. So she goes to talk to him, but he's like kind of talking out of his mind. Like he doesn't realize she's even there. But he makes a statement about Frankie saying, I do love Frankie, But then he starts rambling again. And so then Lucia comes and gets her on the third day. And it's like, maybe I was a little too harsh. So that lets me know, okay, well, she must need this girl for something. Because it's almost like she'll punish her, but she don't want to do too much in the event that the girl leaves. So it's almost like just enough to keep her there. So she goes back upstairs to her room. She now has cameras in her room, but they still can't see her phone. She keeps it in a certain place. It's still there. She can get to it without them even knowing about this phone. So it's been like 5 days and she hasn't gotten any messages from Antiros. And she wants to send something like, she wants to send something to him, but she doesn't because he was supposed to message her. So she's just waiting and waiting. And then finally he texts her something like, miss me slave, something like that. And he sends her a picture of his dick print, and she she takes her ass downstairs to the club. She has a man kiss her on her shoulder, takes the picture and sends it to him, and he messages her back, if you ever do that again, the man that you just let kiss you, I'm gonna come right through that window and I'm gonna take them out. And she's like, I have cameras now. He said, I don't care. I forgot to say this. Before, when Frankie had come from the basement, Gabby had came to her room and was all upset and told her basically like that it's over with her and Levi because Levi has now transferred to the 72nd precinct and he's trying to get in on Beast's team. Because he feels like Beast is the only person that can actually help him find his mom. And so the car bomb was sent by Lucia, and that was supposed to take him out, which would have ended the war. But Levi saved him. So because of this war, Lucia has been hitting him on every side. Shipments, different aspects of his business have been taking massive hits because of this war. So he's trying to figure out a way to get back at her. So the Levi dude is all like, he has blueprints of the building where Lucia is, and I think they call like the catacombs. And, they don't know fully what happens down there. So the thing is, they're trying to something to get her out of the way. But you still got to know what you're walking into, and they don't know. So that's what makes this so risky. They're going to have to try and figure out a plan. So while they're trying to discuss a plan, his phone keeps buzzing. It's Frankie. Crazy 8 notices it, but he doesn't say anything. The guys all leave the room. Him and Frankie wind up having phone sex. They both come. It was wild. The guys come back. We find out that Lucio Pavoni had been poisoned and is now dead. So he didn't have dementia. Someone had been poisoning him all this time. I was like, dang. They also start thinking about the fact that they probably need to take out Emilio as well. Emilio is in DC. He's doing a lot of drugs. He's pitiful. He's useless. So they think they need to go ahead and take him out. And Tyros is also now thinking, like, I keep trying to be ahead of this family. Maybe I just need to be ahead of my own family and just wipe out the Pavonis. We get a little backdrop also to Crazy 8 and Anturos. And apparently he was messing with someone who was married. Crazy 8 was. And I think his real name is Alcide. Alcide. Alcide, I guess that's how you say it. The problem was, I guess it interfered with business, whoever this person was he was messing with. And Crazy 8 was supposed to cut it off. He didn't. He kept messing with the person because he was in love with them. And so that's all we know right now. So we're just getting like little drops and pieces. So a couple of days go by. She hasn't heard from Antiros, and she, of course, wants to send a text message saying, I miss you, but she stops herself. She's in the kitchen. There's no cameras, and she's constantly checking the phone, and then she hears someone's coming. So she goes and hides in the cupboard. She hears Nikolai and Lucia talking, and he tells her that he's giving Levi the fake information, which is that map for the way to get into the building. So it's all it's a setup basically. So Levi, he's clearly working both sides, but again, I think, like, Nikolai, double agent, but I think he's also working for himself. It's just a way of how do I get these two to take each other out, so then I get what I want. And I think Levi's probably operating under that same thing. More so, I'm just trying to get whatever information I can so I can find my mother. However I need to do it, that's what I'm going to do. So, they all have their own separate motivations. So Nikolai basically lets her know a strike is coming. I just don't know when it's going to happen. And then also a message has been sent. It is the head of Emilio. So they done took him out. So Frankie was in the cupboard. Something fell. Her ass gets discovered. She goes upstairs with Lucia. And she's like, if you want to know more about your family, I'll tell you some stuff. But it just doesn't make sense. She said that she had a daughter that was, an illegitimate kid. And she and her dad had to give it away, apparently. The daughter had Frankie. But again, some of this stuff, it just doesn't make sense. Something's off. So Frankie realizes she's lying because she's trying to keep something bigger covered up. And so, of course, she wants to try and find out what it is. So then she goes to talk to Gabby to try and get the real story of Gabby's mom, Sophia DeLuca. Gabby's all upset because Levi is now, in this high position with Beast, getting closer to him. She does finally tell her, that your mother wasn't a whore. She didn't get between two brothers. But that's the story that's been told to Gabby this whole time. Your mother was a whore. She caused all these problems. But it's like, she even asked her, like, how far apart in age are you and Emilio? And it's just kind of the realization is that couldn't have been your mother because she was already gone. So like, something's off, But Gabby doesn't want to face it. Her face says she knows what Frankie's saying is true, but she's not ready to accept that. She wants to stick with that lie that she's been told about who she is in this family. So some people, when you get like that, ain't nothing you can tell them. It is what it is. They apparently are trying to arrange her a marriage with someone, Gabby. So she's upset about that as well. A couple of more days go by. Still hasn't heard anything from Antiros. One day, it seems like everyone's pretty much gone. She goes in the kitchen. Girl starts hearing gunshots. Levi bursts through the door. He's like, what are you doing here? No one's supposed to be here. She's looking crazy like, yeah, I'm here. And she realizes her grandmother left her there on purpose to show her what it was like to not have her protection. So she got everybody else out, but left her ass there. How awful. A lot of men got slaughtered. She goes down to the basement, and who does she see? Good old Beast. And he lets her know, I came to get what was mine. And of course they start kissing. So he takes her out of there. They go to like the nearby, like this subway. And then it's like he can no longer not be inside her, and she needs him as well. So they have this little fuck session. And then they hear little old's voice. They gotta stop. And then they have this little back and forth because she doesn't want to leave. She wants to stay with him. But she knows she can't stay. So he tells her, go, there's a corner, there's a curtain where she can go and no one will see her. And so Crazy A comes and the guys come down and they're trying to figure out who the leak is. Because clearly the intel they got was trash. So they're kind of going back and forth thinking it's Levi. One of them thinks it's Nikolai. And then almost as if on cue, Nikolai comes in and he's got the head of Emilio. But he also has this shiny new expensive watch that they know he can't afford. So now they're still thinking like, okay, is he involved in something? Like they know it's an internal leak, just can't figure out who it is. So she goes back and she damn near passed out. Soldier picked her up, but she started clawing at him because her brain is just like, no one should ever touch me but Anteros. So she gets upstairs to her room. She gets visited by Lucia, who slaps her and basically lets her know, that was for her to understand that she needs her protection. That's why she left her there. So then she looks at her phone, waiting to see if Anteros wants to meet up. She feels like she needs more intel, find out a little bit more about what's going on. So she decides to go to Lucia's room. And so she finds a letter. The letter's in Italian, so she can't fully make it out. But she decides after she had gotten the letter, Lucia busted her. She was clearly getting caught, so she couldn't do anything. So she just pushed Lucia down and ran out of there. And so she she almost passed out again on the street, but she gets a text saying now. And so she heads towards the church. And the only thing she can make out on the letter is where it said Lucio and it had Lucia, but then it said mi curo, which means, my heart. And she's like, but that doesn't make sense because they're brother and sister. So Anteros meets up with Frankie at their church. They go and he carves an A in her chest. And it's a hard fuck session after that. They, really own each other. That's how they feel. And then she tells him about the letter and he's starting to read it and she's asking questions. And then she starts saying how, she wanted to be with him and that, this whole thing is just, it's just too much. She can't go back to Lucia. She doesn't want to have to do that. But she's got to go back. She can't go with him because the wolves are going to kill her. So I'm like, babe, I don't know where else you going to go. Like, what is there to do? So he takes the letter from her. And he reads it, and it says that Lucia and Lucio had a child together. Well, it's not exactly what it says, but this is the information that we get from that letter. Frankie is that child. So these fucking siblings done had a kid. I said, well, no wonder she's so goddamn sickly. It's too much alike DNA. Oh my gosh. So he feels like Frankie can never know. Because that can kind of maybe destroy a person. So Frankie goes back to Lucia. She goes to see her father, try and get some more answers. Her father's about to tell her, but before he can, a gun goes off. Lucia walks up, and she had fired a warning shot. The father tried to talk again. This time, she took him out. And before she took him out, he was saying to her, like, I'm not your father. And when she said, well, who is my father? Who's my mother? he wasn't able to get it out because Lucia handled that. So then she decides she's got to figure out a way to get the truth because she can't get it. It's like wherever she goes, she can't get the damn truth. Everyone's keeping bits and pieces from her. So she busts out and leaves. She's decided she's getting the hell out of here. She runs into Gabby on the street. Gabby, of course, is like, why are you leaving? This is our home. And she's trying to explain to Gabby, like, everything she's telling you is a lie, Dario was the person that told, Alessio, about Emilio so that they would take each other out. And, nothing that you've been told is the truth. And Gabby just doesn't want to hear it. Gabby feels like this is a better situation. She apparently now can be with Levi because Levi is also fully working for Lucia. So she's happy. So she's not going anywhere. Which is why I felt like she should have told Anturos what she knows. Who helped her, all this other stuff. You might as well just tell them, like, you keep trying to protect people that they only care about their happiness. So it's like, why are you so concerned about theirs? You know what I'm saying? So she sends a text message to Anturos that says, we need to meet at our place. She goes to the church. Nikolai shows up. Nikolai's like, you need to come back. She's like, no, fuck you. He's like, no, you really need to come back. You're messing up stuff. Nikolai's starting to dress different. Dude's wearing suits. He's basically kind of doing what Anturos did, trying to work his way through the family. So he, of course, is like, I'm not just going to remain a slave, I'm going to do what I need to do to make sure I get what I want. And so he starts saying the lies, saying how, you're the one that orchestrated everything, blah, 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 blah. Guess who walks in? Anturos. He hears this, and now he is fuming because now he believes Frankie orchestrated all the bullshit. So he's pissed, and he's just like, I fell for this woman, and she's my whole fucking downfall. And Nikolai, is, clearly saying this stuff is true. It's crazy. So he pushes her, Anturos does, and she's trying to explain. But this is what irks me with people. Just fucking say it. You could have said what was going on, but she was so sick and she was about to pass out. He calls his wolves and basically whoever gets it first can take her out, and they get a bonus. So all the boys come. Pretty Boy, I think, got there first. And they took her to the docks. Crazy A's there. And he wanted to make Anturos watch her, get taken out. And Anturos was walking away, and he did a shot, but it was to a cinder block, which I don't think, that doesn't make sense. I'm like, that shit could have ricocheted. Like, that's gonna ricochet. Like, what are you doing? So Crazy A's like, I knew it. I knew you were in love with her. And the other guys are looking like, what are you talking about? Like, you really are crazy. But the fact is, he was in love with her, but none of the guys knew what was going on. Once they realized what happened, Crazy A makes the call that, he's going to take the girl out. Because of her, Anturos is like pure weakness. And he's like, why would we follow someone who's weak? So now it looks like Crazy A's trying to take over. So now the guys are looking confused. And at this point, Anturos knows there's nothing he can do but take them all out. So he took out Pretty Boy first, then Little O. Crazy A had pushed Frankie in the water, so he went and grabbed her and he saved her. Anturos did. But I think he was able to get a shot off on Crazy A. So he pulls up Frankie, gives her CPR. She comes back. Of course, they kiss like crazy. He picks her up, takes her to a car, and they drive north for about 2 hours. He has a cabin. No one knows about that cabin. Of course, they have this like hardcore fuck session. Again, just basically realizing how drawn they are to the other person. And if they're going to go down, they're going to go down in flames as long as they do it together. So Anturos thinks about a memory from when he was a child back in Italy, that day he saw Lucio for the first time. Lucio had went to some woman's house, and this woman came out and she was seething. And the woman was like, it'll still work. And he kept saying it was supposed to be a boy. You said it was a boy. I don't want to have to use a name from somebody else to try. I want to carry on my own name via bloodline. So Lucio and Lucia had a baby, and that's Frankie. And she was supposed to get rid of her. So that necklace that she had been wearing, that was the one that Lucio had initially given to Lucia. And this is so wild because they're whole ass siblings. But then that again explains why she's so sickly, and they were so desperate to try and keep this line going. So I guess whoever he was married to, she wasn't having no kids. She wasn't having any kids. So, but they apparently were in love with each other. It's just a lot of weirdness going on. So they're gonna have like this little question session, and basically they just go back and forth. She admits a little bit more about her being sick. He talks about his parents. They were sick too. These people have some of the sickest parents. So Anturo's parents, the father was like a drunk. He wasn't no good. So he would beat on Anturos, and then the mother would sexually take advantage of Anturos. So whenever that song Blue Christmas comes on, that's like the sign for the mother that she can take him and basically fuck him. I'm like, okay. So when he was 7, he took her out and he took the father out. And I'm just going to say I wasn't mad at that. What else do you do? That's so crazy. They've been humping like rabbits at this cabin. She knows her body's about to kind of shut down on her, but she wants as much of him as she can get. And finally, they actually had like a little anal session, and after that it was just too much for her. Girl just passed out. She was asleep for like 2 days. And so then when she comes to, she wants to figure out that letter and what it means, and she basically lets him know, listen, if I gotta Google it and do a Google Translate, I'll do that. So then he tells her what the letter says, and she looks at him and she's like, how long did you know? And he says, before everything went down at the docks. And she tells him she hates him, and she's upset to find out this information. I get that. But at the same time, how do you tell someone that type of information when they're already like, yes, she got darkness and stuff, but this girl is fragile. And this girl has a fantasy of some type of family she wants, and you're about to like, fuck that all the way up. Like, how do you do that? It's him taking a couple days. I don't think is the worst thing in the world. It's not going to change who's what. The Lucio dude is still dead. Your mom, your mother is who you thought your grandmother was, and she's still doing bullshit. Those truths are not going to go anywhere in a couple of days. I'm just saying. But it would have been fucked up for him to decide to never tell her. And I think that's what he was leaning towards, because he was going to destroy that letter. But she had found it. That's where he was wrong. And I can understand her being upset and mad about that. For sure, So then Frankie's pissed. She decides she's leaving. She's about to walk out the door with no shoes on. He's like, if you're going to leave, you can leave with the car. And it was a beautiful vehicle. It was a McLaren. Ooh. So then she leaves. And again, I think she's more upset about what you found out. I don't think it's because she tried to make it out to be like he had orchestrated this horrible thing. And it's just like, nah, boo-boo. This is fucked up where you come from. He didn't know how to tell you, because look at how you just reacted. So He checks the GPS like the next day because he's freaking out. He done got drunk too the night before. He was pissed. And he sees that she's somewhere in Jersey, but the car stopped. So it means either something's wrong, like someone's taking her, or she's run out of gas because she left. She didn't take no fucking money. She just left. Just, ugh. So he takes off on his bike, gets to the place where the vehicle is, and it's a guy in there, and the guy eyeball is like popped out. So clearly the dude tried to do something and she took care of that. So then he goes to Antonio Note's house and Levi pops up and they find the body of Gabby. So Levi breaks down and we find out that Levi had brokered some deal for somebody to go to the Institute, and that was for Frankie to go to the Institute. Before he left, he did tell him, I don't know anything about your mother. I didn't have anything to do with the Institute 10 years ago. He's like, your answers lied with the person that you're working for. But he decided to go ahead and take him out. So that's what he did. And Turles took out Levi. So then we get to that day from Frankie's perspective. And she ran out of gas. This guy comes up to her and he's like, if you need some money, I can help you out. And she's like, no, thank you. I'm good. And she was like, you're going to try and steal my car. And he's like, no, I'm going to have my way with you first, and then I'll steal your car. So when he came at her, she took her keys and instead she stabbed him in the eye. And then she got the keys out of his pocket, took his vehicle, and came back, or went back to Antonio Note's, where she thought, her childhood home. So Gabby comes over there. But Gabby came like the next morning. This girl hadn't even locked the door. She was so tired, she just had to pass out. She just passed out. So Gabby comes over there, and Gabby's pissed because she's like, she now knows that, she's been, in love and dealing with the beast, so she's about that. And Gabby still, of course, doesn't want to hear the truth. I was kind of annoyed with Frankie for even trying again. I really was. So then Gabby's pissed because Frankie tells her, she told Anturos that Levi was a snake, that he was, working with Lucia as well. So now she's like, oh my gosh, you're going to get him killed, this and that. But she had come over there to tell her that they were going to take out the beast. So she was happy to, about the person that you love being taken out. Again, you're concerned about her happiness. She's not concerned about yours. You got to understand that. So Gabby kind of gets killed. It's a freak accident. The girl pulled out a knife, which means she was about to take out Frankie. So this girl don't care about your life or your love, right? And she slipped on water and stabbed herself. And Gabby was just never going to listen to reason. She wanted to be a part of that life. And so that's part of it, right? That's a possibility. It just so happens that with her, it was a freak accident. So before she gives up the ghost, she says to Frankie, they're coming for you. And then all Frankie remembers is that someone hit her on the back of the head and everything goes black. So then Anturos is now on the hunt for Frankie. So he goes to the docks. He sees Nikolai, and now he knows Nikolai has been the mole this whole freaking time. And it hurts him more than he would like to admit, because he had grown to care for Nikolai, and to find out that's what he did. But then again, I'm kind of like, dude, you did kind of take out his family. So I don't really see somebody fully forgetting that. Just saying. So they have a little standoff, nothing major, but Nikolai made the comment, I'm the only one who knows where she is. If you take me out, you're never going to find her. And dude is going to find this girl. So we go back to Frankie's POV, and she, of course, is with these other women It smells like piss and shit. And she feels so stupid because she's like, oh my gosh, like, this is what he was trying to save my ass from this whole time. And that's what I didn't understand, why she was so fucking upset. Like, the idea of that to me is terrifying, like being sold, you know what I mean? That's terrifying. And if someone's trying not to have that happen to you, why are you doubting everything because he didn't tell you about a letter when you feel he should have? Like, that just... And she feels stupid. And I was like, and you should. Because that was dumb. When they get to the docks, he winds up rescuing Frankie. Takes her to the warehouse. And she finally tells him, you know, she's sick. She's always going to be sick. And she's like, I know that changes things. He's like, you foolish girl. Don't change nothing. You know, he's like, why won't you just let me love you? And again, it's sad because no one's ever loved her. Everything's been on condition. And so it's so sad. That was just so sad. But she was terrified to tell him that because of what his response would be. Why are you not able to understand why he was afraid to tell you about something and what your response would be? Because your shit is bigger. Just saying. Her disease isn't life-threatening. She may be a little weaker on some days, you know, but it's not, you know, life-threatening. But the secret they uncovered about you, girl, is something serious. So he tells her no more secrets, but he's got one more thing to tell her before they enter this. So he tells the story of Crazy 8 and what actually happened. So Crazy 8 was gay. He had a lover that he was messing with. And this apparently was completely looked down upon with the family. So he was more concerned about the fact that if someone finds out, this is going to blow up everything that he had been trying to build. So he put that to him. Either you take him out or I'm going to have Pretty O come down here. The guys come down and basically torture this man. And so Crazy 8 shot the dude. And he has been effed up ever since. So that's where they get his name from. So Frankie understands and goes, oh, so no wonder he wanted to take me out. You know, makes perfect sense. So they decide they're going to take out the Pavoni family. Well, the current people ruling. She's down with this. He made it, you know, he left it up to her. They're going to concoct this plan. Basically try and separate Nikolai and Lucia. And Lucia and Nikolai apparently going to set up shop at Interios's penthouse, which pisses off Frankie because that's like, she views that kind of as like their home. So Lucia is pissed at her and says something about granddaughter, and Frankie says, don't you mean daughter, mother? And Lucille freaks out because she's like, oh, shoot, she knows. So she grabs her. They go down the hallway to a room to talk. And she's trying to convince her, you know, that she's going to be on her side. And at first it was kind of hard for Frankie to do this. But she was able to kind of convince Lucia that she was going to be on her side. And so then they go out and see Nikolai. He's got a gun to Interio's head. And basically, he's saying what his plan was. He wanted to take the crown. He wanted to rule over everything. They look up the stairs, and they see Crazy freaking A. So Crazy A makes Interios take a shower. I guess he has blood on him and stuff. He's got a gun pointed at him the whole time. Pretty much lets him know how stupid he is, how he allowed love to ruin everything, how weak he is, like all this type of stuff. And then Interios actually apologizes to him, basically said, for what it's worth, I was wrong. I shouldn't have made you kill your lover. He calls him by his name outside, which made Crazy 8 kind of like, oh, you trying to play mind games? Which he was, but it was genuine because he did feel bad about that decision. You know, and he kind of figured like, if this is going to be it, I might as well just be real with whatever. So then They go to the library. Nikolai's is burning books, and Lucia walks in with Frankie, and what did he say? Nikolai says, you've had enough fun. Crazy A's like, nah, the real fun's gonna begin now. So they think they've possibly found a crack, and Tyros does. They all have different motivations. So if that's the case, we might be able to get out of this. So they're all in the library. Lucia asks to speak with Frankie for a few minutes. Crazy A didn't want to do it at first, but eventually he said, fine, 15 minutes. You don't come back, I'm coming after you. They go in the room. Lucia's like, she's only working with them to get what she wants. She's not going to keep this alliance going. She plans on taking them both out as well. So, she's like, I just want it to be the two of us. We're going to be a family. And we find out a little bit when her parents find out, that her and her brother were fucking. They put her in an institute. They took her to the institute thinking that was going to straighten her out. And apparently it didn't. So she was married 4 times and all of her husbands died. And I think she probably did it. Eventually they stopped trying to marry her off. She wasn't paying attention, and Frankie had this dagger or glass thing that she had, and she shoves it into her chest when she was acting like she was going to embrace her. And Lucia's like, I did this for you. And she's like, you didn't do this for me. She's like, the person who did this for me, who loves me, is the person that's about to die for me right now, not you. So then Nikolai comes in, sees what's happened. He takes Frankie back to the library. And Tyros is, working on Crazy A, start throwing out these different scenarios, saying, Nikolai was the issue this whole time. He's trying to destroy everything, blaming Frankie. Like he's, just trying to work a lot of avenues. And then Crazy A tells him, okay, go stab her. And so he walks up to Frankie and he stabs her. He's freaking out. He can't show it. She's in total shock. She didn't anticipate that, but he had to do it. But at the same time, it wasn't enough. And Crazy A told him, did you really think that was going to be it? And so he wanted for Tyros to tell Frankie the story, even though she already knew it, but he just went ahead and he told her it again. And at the end of the story, he decides he's going to torture. He gives him the option: do you want to torture her, or put her out of her misery? So, and Tyros has a gun. Everybody's got guns. Nikolai ran off at this point because he was like, "This ain't the plan. Crazy A's going off, script. Like, I'm getting out of here." So then Crazy A when he went to shoot, no one, he didn't know Frankie had her own little revolver. And so she got off 3 shots. One of them hit Crazy A where it mattered. He's out. Crazy A was able to get out a shot that hit Tyros in the shoulder. Nothing, life-threatening. And afterwards, and turned up to Crazy A, and he let off a couple in his back to make sure he was gone. Because here's the truth: if that man survived that, he's not going to stop. You are the author of his devastation. You started it. So until you're gone, or until you suffer what I feel you should suffer, he wasn't going to stop. So people like that, yeah, you kind of got to make sure that makes sense. It's all, it's all awful, but it does make sense why he had to do it. So after this, they have this intense fuck session. Weird to me, because there's knives that he's using on her. He's using the other end of the knife, and he's like fucking her with it. It's a little weird to me. Plus the fact that, the dead bodies are still there, No one's come to get them. And they know they got to clean them up before they start to smell. So that's just a lot to me. But they have their own kink, and it is what it is. They're still on board to join the mafia business. So after the downfall of the families, um, there were other people that tried to like make their families come up. It's been about 2 years after everything, and they go to the same hotel that started this all when she carved the F in his chest. And there's a stranger there who watches her come. So this has been a thing that they're into, where he allows someone to watch while she comes. And then afterwards, he takes the person out. And she was like, are you going to do that every time we bring someone? And he said, yep, every time. So she's like a whole full enforcer. They're both the boss. She still calls him boss, but she's a boss as well. They don't deal with like the prostitution, like the institute thing. They don't do that. Not that they do everything good, but they don't do that. Nikolai went off and he tried to establish himself, and she's found him because he was like pretty much getting his own crew together, and she was able to find him. So she has him tied up, and she, asked him, what do you want to do with him? And so Turos tells Nikolai about the fact that he never killed the baby sister. He took the baby sister and put her with a family. So this whole time, Nikolai had thought, his whole family was gone, but he just took out his mother and his father. Still bad, don't get it twisted. But the sister is alive and well. She's about 11. And then he makes the comment, yeah, she's about ready to go to the institute. They're not going to do that to that little girl, but he wanted him to die with that thought. Like, just torture, basically, And so he asks her, what do you want to do? And she says, this is for you, whatever you want. She was like, but then again, maybe we should cut him up and send him to all the different people that are in his crew, so they know who really runs this. I was like, oh gosh, this girl is a mess. And so that was their bliss. They are in the mafia game, running things just as dark as ever. I enjoyed it. It went somewhere I didn't anticipate. I did not see that Lucia and Lucio thing happening at all. That was weird. Wow. Drop down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think of this series. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, I do have some of those on sale, and that link is going to be available down in the description section below. Make sure you like and subscribe. And as always, I truly do thank you all for your support, and thank you for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.